weekend happens, and so does Michael Snyder. As we go out to the left coast of the United States of America and check in and see what's happening with the movies and other stuff. Michael?
I am happening, Alex. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
I missed those East Coast autumns, pal, but, you know, I'm plowing forward here in the Southland. Los Angeles is home for right now, and that means movies, and we should get to them. No screening for Max Steel, which is opening today, and I took a pass on the Kevin Hart film What Next? It's a live in concert performance doc featuring the jabber-jawed comedian. Not a fan, so I didn't think it was fair to go in there and, you know, cast aspersions. And tragically, I wasn't given a chance to see Shin Godzilla, a.k.a. Godzilla Resurgence, as yet, but that will be remedied. I don't know what the deal was with the promotional screenings for that. But let's get to what we have here. The Accountant leads things off. It's a crime thriller starring Ben Affleck as a math savant working for shady international organizations, and he gets on the radar of the Treasury Department right as he's trying to do a legitimate job for a rising robotics company after an accounting clerk at the company discovers a massive discrepancy involving millions of dollars. So when you add up the assets and subtract the liabilities, The Accountant isn't a bad movie, but it was disappointing. The action, the casting, and the plot are all solid, but there's no one main figure that earns your empathy. I mean, certainly not Affleck's title character, whose autism or Asperger's or whatever it is that makes him a genius savant and painfully, destructively asocial. It also distances him from the audience. And by the way, The Accountant is also a martial arts whiz and a dead-eye shot with any manner of gun, and we find out the why and the how here. The director, Gavin O'Connor, is best known for the sibling martial arts drama Warrior and the cop corruption thriller Pride and Glory, and he does an okay job here. J.K. Simmons is always solid, and he's in his comfort zone as head of the Treasury Department's Crime Enforcement Division. John Bernthal, now known as the Punisher to some, is equally well cast as the accountant's opposite number, and so is John Lithgow as the head of the robotics company. But Anna Kendrick, who I like sometimes and sometimes I couldn't care less about, she's a non-entity here as the clerk who discovers that millions are missing at the robotics company. She's supposed to be your way in, and I just, did not kind of take to the character. There's also a cameo by Jeffrey Tambor that's effective, but again, The Accountant felt like less than the sum of its parts. Okay, Certain Women, on the other hand, really impressed me, and it's not a big deal film. It's not a blockbuster at all, but it's just very, very good. And for all the empathy that wasn't generated by The Accountant, it's here in spades. It's all over the place in Certain Women, which is from writer-director Kelly Reichardt. It's her latest, and it's a moody anthology-style look at four very different women whose lives brush against one another in the big sky country of southern Montana. In one pairing, actually, they directly impact one another. Anyway, it's subtle, minimal, and beautiful. Reichardt wrote and directed the homeless girl and her dog film Wendy and Lucy, and the tense, effective, radical environmentalist thriller Night Moves, and she directed this Westward Ho period piece called Meek's Cutoff. I thought all these films were first-rate and uncompromising examinations of really distinctive people in pressure situations, and this is the same sort of film. Anyway, one of the actresses in Certain Women is Michelle Williams, who was also the lead in Wendy and Lucy and Meek's Cutoff. She's kind of like a good luck charm or muse for Reichardt. But here she shares screen time with three other fine actresses, starting with Laura Dern, who's a lawyer frustrated by defending an angry disabled man with a workplace injury. And by the way, the man is brilliantly played by Jared Harris of The Expanse and Mad Men, and he's playing an unrecognizably American working-class stiff, and you wouldn't even believe it's Jared Harris. Michelle Williams is Gina, trying to build her dream home on the outskirts of this small town with her husband, who she feels undermines her efforts, and newcomer Lily Gladstone is a solitary rancher who stumbles into an extension class on school law and becomes fixated on the teacher, who's played by Kristen Stewart, doing great work. Screw Twilight. Kristen Stewart is a good actress. All these women are either struggling with their interpersonal relationships, careers, or places in society, and the combined impact of these short slices of their lives is very, very potent. I thought Certain Women was a great film. I wish I had felt the same about Deserto, which is a movie about illegal immigration, about people trying to cross the U.S.-Mexican border, men and women looking for a new life. I guess this is Donald Trump's new favorite film because they begin to get chased down by like a psychotic rifle-bearing vigilante. And, it's basically a chase, pursue, and shoot situation. And I found it to be a little simplistic, and it didn't really impress me as much as I hoped it would. It has some action stuff, and some of the themes are interesting, and obviously this is an issue in front of the entire country, illegal immigration, but it turns into just sort of a garden variety thriller with less depth than you wish it had. It's actually directed by Jonas Cuarón, who's Alfonso Cuarón's son, and was integral in Gravity, the making of that film and writing that script. And it stars Gael Garcia Bernal and Jeffrey Dean Morgan, among others. But again, Desierto, I should have deserted it about halfway through. I wish it had been better. Christine, on the other hand, was outrageously good. And these are a bunch of little films that people should get a hold of. Certain Women, Christine, and one of the others here. It is about the true story of a Sarasota, Florida TV station newscaster in the early 70s. Her name, Christine, I'm trying to remember the woman's last name. A really, really tragic story, and it was all over the place back then. And she has thwarted aspirations. She's depressed. Her intellect is belittled. And there's the rise of exploitive tabloid and infotainment journalism, and it all conspires to bring her down. Rebecca Hall, British actress, wonderful, complex, and a little creepy as Christine, whose American tragedy is investigated up close and personal in an incredibly effective way. It's one of the more disturbing docudramas I've seen. Again, this is based on a true story, and it was all over the newspapers back in the day. There's also great naturalistic work from Michael C. Hall of Dexter, Tracy Letts from Homeland, Maria Dizia from Orange is the New Black, and Timothy Simons, of all people, from Veep, as Christine's TV station colleagues. So you've got sexism, personal demons, and the pursuit of sensationalism. It's a perfect storm of tragedy for Christine, and the film is well directed in very studious fashion by Antonio Campos, and it tells Christine's sad story better than any newscast in all probability. Okay, Miss Hokusai is a new anime film which is pure visual poetry inspired by a genuine historical figure, Hokusai, the revered Japanese painter of the 1800s in the city of Edo, which is now Tokyo. The movie, to be fair, centers on the challenges facing his very talented daughter, whose own exquisite and sometimes erotic art is successfully sold under the brand or trademark of her father's name. So she's kind of subservient to the guy, and she's not crazy about it. This is a beautiful, gentle, and sometimes heartbreaking depiction of the exploits of Hokusai's family, with all the struggles and triumphs and mysteries and tragedies, as well as fantastic imagery that Miss Hokusai imagines around her, ghostly spirits rising out of bodies, for example. It's anime, it's from Japan, it's subtitled for right now. There may be an English dub, but it's beautiful stuff, mostly done in a more realistic style than, say, Astro Boy or Akira or My Neighbor Totoro. It's a lovely, lovely film. And let's wrap things up with Little Sister, which was a very prickly and strange dramedy, freaky and original. It's the story of a former goth girl turned nun who returns home for a visit when she finds out that her brother is back from the Iraq War and incredibly damaged. It's a very uncomfortable, dysfunctional circumstance when she comes home, and it culminates in a Halloween celebration. And it's sweet, and it's kind of bizarre, and I thought it was very, very well done. Addison Timlin is terrific as Colleen, the young nun, and Ali Sheedy is pretty wonderful as Mom. It's basically unlikely and something that you probably could enjoy on video. What do you got in terms of television suggestions, Alex?
Well, I mean, it's kind of an embarrassment of riches this year. I'm amazed at the quality, to begin with, of network television this year. This Is Us is just spectacular.
I've been loving it.
It never lets you down. The writing is terrific. The acting is superb. I mean, it's one of those things you don't expect from television, and it's successful. Oddly enough,
yep.
You know,
intertwined cross-generational story that swings back and forth in time and does so effortlessly with a wonderful cast.
I keep waiting for Designated Survivor to implode, and it refuses to.
It's fun. Come on, man!
Yeah,
it's a fun show.
It's fun, but it's also current in a lot of ways. I mean, it deals with a lot of issues today, and I think it's a really terrific show.
Well, you know, he's not Kiefer Sutherland is not playing Jack Bauer, but I keep waiting for him to say "damn it" at some point. You know, Jack style.
I don't.
Okay.
Let me see here, and then there's the Nick Nolte thing on Epix. Which is just terrific. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Hold on a second. I'm getting it here. It's where's all his stuff? Graves. That's the name of it. It's on Epix, and it's about. Have you seen this thing at all?
I've seen some notice of it. He's a former president. Is that the case?
But 25 years earlier, he had been president of the United States, and pretty much an asshole president. You know, with these very conservative attitudes and so on. And all of a sudden he gets an epiphany that everything he did was shit and he's got to go back and correct it all. And it's really a very good show. It's a half hour. It's, you know, it's easy to take, and it's on Epix. And
it's funny.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Epix is also, I think, the source for the new show Berlin Station, which I've really enjoyed.
I haven't watched that yet.
Yeah, 2 episodes are available for viewing online to anyone interested, and it'll actually rev up, I think, in a week or so. But it's a pretty wonderful espionage show. There's you're right, it's a golden age these days.
Yeah, and you know, overall, I'm finding television quite enjoyable lately on a lot of levels. And then there are the normal shows. There are the 9 DC shows on television now.
That's 4, but yeah, it feels like
not.
9.
It's not 4. No, absolutely not. You've got at least 4 shows on the what do you call it?
The CW. The CW. Yeah, I was thinking about those interlock shows.
Then you got Gotham. You've got Lucifer. You've got iZombie, which will be coming back again. We're up to 8. The 9th, I can't remember what the 9th is, but it's amazing.
Well,
I mean,
no. Let me say something. I love Lucifer. You know, you remember I Love Lucy? I love Lucifer. It's kind of a guilty pleasure, but the guy is just fantastic who plays the devil stranded on Earth.
But I'm saying DC is very prominent in TV these days, amazingly so. And it's going to be interesting to see, you know, what happens with all these shows. I find that Flash is not that good this year. Arrow is trying to reboot itself. But DC's, what is it, Legends of Tomorrow, is a much better show than it was last year. So
yeah, I enjoyed the debut this week of Legends of Tomorrow. What do you think of this TV version of Superman who showed up on?
I forgot Supergirl. Well, I included Supergirl when I said CW. What, the new Superman? I think it's kind of a cheesy Superman. You know, I would have preferred on that show if they just kept Superman as kind of like a myth outside of her life. You know,
you mean the equivalent to Carlton the Doorman?
Well, I mean, you know, when you suddenly have Superman and Supergirl together, it doesn't work as well as Superman is in Metropolis. He's the cousin, and every now and then he will come to her rescue just because you see him in shadow. You know, I thought that was much better. So. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, a lot of people are saying, compared to the grim and gritty Superman in the current films, that this like kind of livelier, more joyful take.
Well, this is more the comic book Superman rather than the what do you call it? What do you call them? The comic books that are supposed to be hoitier and toitier than the comic book.
Oh yeah, graphic novels.
The graphic novels. Yeah, I mean the stuff they're doing in the movies is kind of graphic novels, and it's interesting to note that DC has been much more successful in TV than they ever have been in the movies.
Agreed. I enjoy those interlock CW shows, as cheesy as they are. Cheesy was a good word for it.
Yeah.
But so there's a lot to watch, and we're glad to have it out there.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. Westworld has gotten better. I enjoyed the latest episode, and so hopefully there'll be something better and better happening there. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we're watching.
Well, the fall is continuing, and it's
Marjorie watches The Fall. I don't. So, yeah.
Well, Gillian Anderson is pretty good in it, and it's a short form. It's 6 episodes and done. And I don't know that they'll ever go beyond this one because their main villain, Jamie Dornan's got this movie career here in the States. But who knows?
Yeah. Anyway, let's see here. I guess that's it, huh?
Yeah. Let's roll it up. You can check me out on Twitter at Culture Blaster. And go to Michael Snyder's Culture Blast page on Facebook, like it, link on to our conversations and articles and such, and we'll hopefully be back next week.
And there's more GABNet coming right up.